So it's been a few weeks. It's time to get this thing out and do a few sound bites, drive-bys, get it started up. It's bloody freezing. I've been waiting for some good weather, but last 4 days has been pretty good, but just been too busy. Today it's overcast, but it's still pretty cool. So even though it's got a couple of leaks, they're not going to stop me driving it. Get it going, do a few sound bites, and then take it to House Auto after that. Probably once the weather starts finding up again, get me go over it. And hopefully those leaks were just coming maybe from the back of the rocket cover. Transmission, I reckon, overfilled it. Other than that, the thing should be fine. So let's get it out and open it up a bit.
Hanging on, walking tall. Some days I got no use for it all.
These old fuel caps are pretty shite as well, but they're hard to find these days. This is the original. I'm actually using the key from my Triton to open it up, because I don't have the original. But it works. It just shows you how shite they are. All right, so it's full. Well, it's got 25 litres, that'll be enough. Let's start her up. Well, it's a bit of a mission to start. It's been very cold. Struggled last time, but a little bit of smoke, which I assume is probably a bit of oil coming off the extractors and pins from last time. Once it gets an idle going though, it seems to be pretty stable. So it just takes about 5 minutes to warm up. It's like any kind of work engine, you know, they're not easy to start on a cold morning, the best of times with no choke. So hopefully she lasts and the driver ready. All right, so we're just gonna head off. Warmed her up for about 10 minutes. So we'll just get going. So in the process of the last few weeks, obviously, you know, I've been thinking about this ute, thinking about the channel, what the direction's going to be, and this really is the last episode in this whole series of the build. 92 episodes in total over the course of 8 years. I'm going to do a time-lapse video of everything in one hit, so you can see basically from day one, week one, right through to 8 years later, the completion. But you know, it also raises a question: is, you know, what do I want to do going forward? Do I want to be a slave to restoring cars for the sake of social gratitude or anything like that? But you know, that's never what I really started off for this whole episode or this whole journey to be. It was never about the social aspect of it. It was about doing something that was hard, that you wanted to try and set a task for yourself to accomplish. And now that that's been done, I guess there's a sense of accomplishment there, but also it's ignited a passion for these old cars even more than I had before, and also the community around it. So yeah, as I mentioned in that last episode, I wanted to pick a car out of the three that were there and give it a crack. So I've decided I'm going to do the HZ, stick with what I know, but don't take a huge amount of time to do it, and do a pretty much original restoration the way it is, and get all the parts for it and get it underway and do a quick series on that HZ. So that's where the channel's at the moment. For now, I'm just going to enjoy driving the Ute. Hope to get it out more once the weather's better. Go and meet some people, take it around to a few cars and coffees, and generally just enjoy it. I've decided also, based on some research I've been doing, I wanted to get an complete ice injection system with the module, the ignition module and the distributor, made in Melbourne. Really good piece of kit, and I did see the guys on Hack's Shop Garage, they installed it, and it really did make a remarkable difference in the spark that the engine was getting. And I think that's what this engine's lacking. It's got that Chinese distributor talking to the ice coil. You know, those Chinese distributors are good for a budget, but yeah, they're not really in a league of the ice stuff. So I think that's the missing component. I've mentioned that to Albert, and he's willing to install that when we see it. Obviously everything costs money, so you just got to weigh it up, but I think that'd be money well spent. So anyway, I will get to the point where I want to get, and we'll do some drive-bys on this the old Ute. Yeah, obviously it takes a fair old bit of revving to get it to change from first to second, and then from second to third it's pretty much, you know, an easy transition. So I'll just do another acceleration. I'm not going too hard on it. So can't complain with the gearbox. I don't know whether it's just anxiety of having a new engine or a new car, new Ute, but I just feel that the thing's going to blow up on me or something, you know. I think it's just from having that past experience of the trouble in the dyno and all that kind of stuff. But also when you build something yourself, you just don't know. Did I miss that bolt? Did I put Loctite on the flex plate bolts? All this kind of stuff plays through your head. No, you just got to shake it down bit by bit, which I have. And I think also I'm a bit of a worrywart. It drives really nice, can't complain. These old rigs just are really comfortable. I definitely think the acceleration would pick up with this ice ignition system as well. I'm not burying my foot in the floor pan. As I said, it's only done 500 Ks. You know, it needs to have the tappets levels checked as well again. So yeah, just don't want to do anything stupid too early. So certainly give it a little poke here and there. Anyway, we'll keep going to the spot and then I'll do some filming. It pulls like a freight train. Still got plenty in it, so that I'm only doing half throttle. There's another thing is 10 volt Salisbury, if you light it up it'll probably be the last time it gets lit up, so I don't want to stuff around with it. It's another thing, based on the trip to Moama, I'd like to get a 308 center in it. So I know you can get those aftermarket now for about $700, so I think it'd be worthwhile do that, get the 3.6 out of it, just give it a little bit more cruising power. So I'm going, you know, 75 k's an hour at the moment, but when you're on the highway, that's just not really cutting the mustard. You get people up your bloody arse, and a lot of impatient drivers out there. Yeah, so I think without going through the huge expense of getting an overdrive gear for the Turbo 350, I think your 308 is probably the best and most affordable solution, other than getting a complete 9-inch diff with a different ratio and true track and all that sort of stuff. But you're sort of looking up $4,000 if you want to do that, which is, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Going to pull over here. I'm supposed to get a mate pulling up waiting for me, but I'm not too sure if he's going to come on. I'll just pull up here for a bit. So I don't get fucking bogged. Start her up and do a bit of acceleration.
Set to thinking I could make something of me, playing every game except the lottery, serving everybody.
The guy in the house has started looking at me a bit strange.
Misery is a showy state of bad company.
Bad backdrop. So yeah, you heard it. It drives beautifully. Nice acceleration, nice note. Couldn't fault it really. Yeah, just a nice engine. Sounds beautiful. So yeah, you can see where we are at. Here's beautiful location. Try to find a quiet road. At around about 1 o'clock on a Friday is the time to do it. So yeah, give us your thoughts on that note in the drive-by. I'll just check those, I'm going to check the files now to see what it sounds like. If they don't sound good enough, I'll do it again. When I first dragged this old WB home, I honestly had no idea what I was getting myself into. I thought I was building an old Holden. Turns out I was rebuilding myself. Over the last 8 years, this project has tested me in ways I'd never imagined. There were mistakes, some expensive, some frustrating. Days where I'd spend 10 hours in the shed, only to realise I had to do it all again because I didn't quite get it right the first time. Moments where I wondered if I was completely out of my depth. And the truth is, most of the time I was. I never painted a car in my life, I'd never welded, I'd never fabricated parts. Painting a pearl metallic car as my very first spray job was probably the equivalent of landing a rover on Mars on the first attempt. It took a mountain of research, a willingness to keep learning, and maybe just a little bit of luck. Every skill I need to finish this car, I learnt because this car demanded it. I've always been a believer in learning the hard way, because once you've done the hard yards, you don't forget. And looking back now, I wouldn't change any of it, because somewhere along the way, the bloke who started this build wasn't the same bloke who finished it. Projects like this ask for more than just money. They ask for your weekends, your holidays, your patience, and sometimes they ask a lot from people around you too. Relationships get tested. Some become stronger, some drift apart, and along the way new friendships are formed. People come into your life for a chapter of the build, and sometimes it's exactly where that chapter ends. Others stay for the whole journey, but every single person leaves their mark. A mate helping you hang a guard, a father teaching his son how to fit an engine, someone dropping around after work just to lend a hand, or a complete stranger leaving a comment that gives you the answer you've been searching for. No one finishes a project like this alone, even if you're the only one turning the spanners. Why do we hold these old Holdens in such high regard? Sure, we love the timeless body lines and the roar of the iron line, but I reckon that's only half the story, because these old cars represent something much bigger than ourselves. They're rolling time capsules. They remind us of weekends in the shed, or family road trips, of our parents and grandparents, of mates who said they'd be there, and they were. Before mobile phones, before social media, when your word was enough. They remind us of a time when we built things to last, when Australian cars weren't just built here, they became part of who we were. Maybe that's why so many of you connected with this journey, not because it was the perfect build, but because it was real. You watched the mistakes, the wins, the failures, the self-doubt, the learning, and through every comment, every message, every piece of advice, you helped shape the build just as much as I did. When I look at this WB now, I don't just see the work that I put into it, I see every conversation, every lesson, every helping hand, every person who became part of the journey. This old WB gave me far more than just a finished car. It gave me skills I'll carry for the rest of my life, friendships I'll always be grateful for, and confidence I never knew I had. And a reminder that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary things if they're willing to start before they know exactly how. So while this chapter comes to an end, it doesn't really feel like an ending, because the destination was never the best part. It was the journey, the people, the lessons, the memories along the way. It was always about documenting the restoration from a beginner's perspective. The idea was to create a resource I wish I'd had when I'd started, almost like an encyclopedia of how to restore a WB Ute. And if this series has helped even save one old Holden from a rusty demise, or given someone the confidence to tackle a restoration of their own, then that's a reward every bit as satisfying as finishing this ute. So to round it up, I'll leave you with this. This build might be over, but hopefully these videos will keep helping people for many years to come.